Hello, good morning. Welcome to Series 2 class. My name is Olusola OO. This morning, our assignment is very simple. But before then, let me quickly intimidate us with what we discussed in our permitment class. Last class, we discussed some of the socio-political groups in Israel, where we made reference to the zealot socio-political group that reigned in Israel and Rome far back in BC century. Then we also make reference to Herodians socio-political group in Israel and their role, and we established that the Herodians socio-political group metamorphosed from Herod, from the name Herod. And as we all know, Herod happened to be king of Israel at that time. So this set of people that believe in the philosophies, in the teachings, in the doctrines, and norms and values of Herod assemblage themselves and team themselves with this type to call Herodians because they believe in the principles of King Herod at that time. So, in order to build up on his ideas of way of life and rulership, they came to existence. So, we discussed this in our last class. That this morning we'll be talking about religious groups in Israel. Religious groups in Israel. Religious groups in Israel. So we'll be looking at four principal religious groups in Israel. And when we talk about religious groups, we simply means group of persons or group of bodies or associations that term themselves as religious association or religious bodies or religious institutions or religious personnel. Then their focus is to propagate the religious activities, particularly in Israel. So we'll be looking at this. So it's very simple topic and interesting topic. So the first religious group we'll be talking about this morning is what we call the Pharisees. Pharisees. So the Pharisees is the oldest religious group in Israel. Yes, we can also call them sect, that is association. But when we talk of sect, it is more of clandestine association. But principally in theology, they were regarded to as the Jewish sect and is the oldest religious group. And it had its foundation that was 167 BC century. 167 BC century. That was when the Pharisees was formed or was established in Israel. And as a matter of fact, they had their root right from the wilderness. They had their root right from the wilderness. This religious group was dissolved in 72 CE, 72 century era. That was when this was dissolved, and that happened during the AD, after the death of Jesus Christ. That was when the this religious group was dissolved in Israel. Now, they owed firmly to the Jewish traditions. They hold firmly to the Jewish doings, ways of life, and they also believe so much in the Mosaic principle. So they believe that no individual, no member of the society or of the community should stain the Torah, which is the laws. The laws. Nobody should stain it. Nobody should tout with it. And that's why here I say, by their sense of superior sanctity, to separate themselves from other Jews. So the reason why they separate themselves from other Jews or Jewish members of the society is because so that they will not be traumatized. Because they play, in fact, we can like their function to the judicial function today in our modern society. So that's why they separate themselves from other members of the society, so that they will be able to take the cost of justice duly and justly. So that's why they don't have this cordial interaction with other members of the, so they separate themselves from the people so that they can interpret everything that has to do with the Torah. And don't forget that the Torah contains the laws that Moses stipulated for the Israelites right from the wilderness. And it is owing to their obdurateness or stubbornness, because as we know, from theological perspective and from historical perspective, Israelites are very stubborn. They are set of stubborn human beings. And that was what led to the commandment that Moses handed over to them. So these Pharisees hold firm to this. So they believe in this so well. And that's why I also further stated that, however, this religious group was self-righteousness. You see, they believe that they are clean. They believe that they are safe. They believe that they are not, there is no any element of injustice in them, of crime in them. That is, they are saints or they are saved, but by the law. So, and that's why I also say that the Pharisees did not have any cordial relationship with the common people. Yes, due to the rigorous interpretation of the law, so that nobody will do what? Nobody, no member of the society will romanticize them. They will not have feeling or passion or be taken away by relation that will affect the interpretation of the law. That will affect the interpretation of the law that they believe and that was handed over to them by Moses at that time. And the body of this law is what we regarded as Torah. Then the second religious group that is also sequanor to discuss is the Sadducees. The Sadducees. The Sadducees is one of the strict religious group in Israel. And this religious group came to be during the 2nd century BC century. That's where they came to be. So it the Pharisees was just about 100 years older than the Sadducees. That is when the Sadducees came to existence. At that time, the Pharisees was already in existence for about a century, and that a century makes 100 years makes up a century. So it means that Pharisees was already in place for about 100 years. But both of them, they are ancient religious group that had their root in the BC era before Jesus Christ and Muhammad were born. They had their root. So they also believe in the Torah, and the parameter of their strictness is higher, tougher, strict than that of the Pharisees. So they will not tolerate or welcome any idea or philosophy that will contradict the Mosaic laws. That is the law that Moses handed over to them in the wilderness. Remember that these laws was given to Moses when Moses was on Mount Sinai. Don't forget that. Now, I want us to see a connection between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. One of the major connections between the Sadducees and the Pharisees is that both of them did not believe in what is called life after death, that is restoration. Both of them, both groups, did not believe in restoration. So it means that they don't have belief in the teachings, in the doctrines, in the principles of Jesus Christ. Also, the Sadducees exist for about 20 to 25 years during Jesus Christ. And that's why they have contact with Jesus. They challenge Jesus. If you read New Testament very well, there's a point that they interrogate Jesus Christ. And they ask him that, oh, see this woman have married 7 brothers. So if you are telling us there's a life after death, who will be the original husband of this woman that married 7 brothers in her lifetime, or in this day, or in this world? So who will be the original husband of this woman? They asked Jesus Christ. But the Pharisees was dissolved before Jesus Christ. Not this, but the Sadducees exist into the era of Jesus Christ, and that's why they were able to challenge Jesus Christ, or this religious group was able to challenge Jesus Christ, that this woman that married 7 brothers, that after marrying the first one, he died, married the second one from the same family, he died, then continues until the 7th one. Then, if there's actually a life after death or is the restoration that you are telling us now, then who will be the original husband of this woman? Imagine. So these people are so cunning in their philosophy, and that is why they don't believe in the restoration of Jesus Christ. They don't believe that there is life after death. They don't believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. But both Sadducees and Pharisees believe and hold firmly to Torah or to Mosaic law. They believe firmly to Mosaic law. So they believe that what will make them to live a worthy life is the teaching of the law, and the level of submission or the level by which an individual is submissive to the law or Torah or Mosaic laws will make one to end the kingdom of God. No wonder when Jesus Christ came, he said, I have not come to destroy the whole law, but I have come to give a better way, a better format, a better standard by which you can obey this law. Remember that these laws were documented in the tablets in their time, in the ancient period or in the BC era. But during Jesus, when Jesus Christ said, no, I want these laws to be written in your hearts. And that is what led us to what we call new law or new covenant in theology. Maybe one of our class, we are going to discuss the new covenants. That will see the theological perspective of this. So because of time, let's quickly look at the next religious group in Israel, which is the scribe. The scribe is known as Sophism. That is where the name metamorphosed from. Sophism is a Greek word. And to describe also, the scribe is also one of the oldest religious groups in Israel, but not as old as Pharisees and Sadducees. As a matter of fact, the scribe also came into existence in the 3rd BC century. Now get the calculation. Pharisees came into existence in the 1st BC century. Sadducees came into existence in the 2nd century BC. That was 100 years after the Pharisees was in existence. Then 100 years after, that is when the scribes came into existence. Then that was after good 200 years. That was the age bracket between the scribes and the Pharisees. Now, the Pharisees believe in Torah as well. They believe in fact, they are made up of the Jewish scholars. Remember that in the early days of Christianity, the myopic reasoning of the Hebrews or the disciples at that time is that Christianity is not meant for everybody. And that is why it was the scope by which it was spread was very low until the day of Pentecost in the book of Acts, before they now realized that Jesus Christ told them in the book of Matthew that they have to teach to the uttermost part of the world. Now, what I'm trying to establish here is that the scribe believed in Torah, in Judaism. And this group was made up of the Jewish scholars. And also, this scribe metamorphosed from the priesthood class. That is what I want you to bear in mind. The foundation of the scribe was from the priesthood class. Remember, in the old dispensation or in Old Testament. Now, in this old dispensation, right from the creation of the world, particularly Israel, God was their leader. God was their governor. God was their king until the period they agitated for a physical king. And that is how Saul became the first king of Israel. So, right from wilderness, God have always appointed priests to lead the Israelites, to direct the Israelites, to give them instruction. God always had to communicate to the priest, and then in return, the priest will communicate to the Israelites until the period when Saul was anointed. Owing to the agitation or the request of the Israelites that they are no longer interested for God to be their leader or for God to be their king. They want a physical king. And God told them God gave them various conditions and so on and so forth. We're going to discuss that also. But the link here is that this scribe is metamorphosed from priest class. So it get to a point that when the Israelites believe that, oh, God doesn't use priest again. That was their mentality. That's why I say my peak mentality. They they say God doesn't use priest again to communicate to them. That God communicates now through the Torah. And if God communicates through the Torah, then there is need for a body that will interpret the Torah, that will be in charge of the Torah, that will communicate the message in the Torah to the people. And that is how the scribe was institutionalized in the 3rd century, towards the end of the 10th century. That's how the scribe came to be. So, neglecting the role and the function of the priesthood. So, it means that the scribe also succeeded the BC era or in the old dispensation down to the new dispensation or New Testament when Jesus Christ was alive. As a matter of fact, the scribe also challenged Jesus Christ. They also embraced the Roman Empire. They also embraced the Roman rulers. And as a matter of fact, they also do not believe in life after death like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So let me go to I don't know, the assignment I have for us this morning. Discuss the differences between the values of the Pharisees and the Sadducees groups in Israel. So you have to submit this assignment using our WhatsApp page, latest by 2 p.m. tomorrow. To be submitted tomorrow by 2 p.m. Do we have any question? Any question? Okay, if there is no question, we have come to the end of today's class. And if you are watching this lecture via our YouTube channel, I want to encourage you to continue to subscribe and also encourage others to also join us in this class. We promise to give you the best. Thank you